Welcome to the Cowfish Show, an exploration in human evolution, raising consciousness, creating happiness, fulfillment, and love, one soul at a time. I'm E.L. Brooks, a newly awakened soul on a mission to help people find their happiness and truth.
And I'm Lindsey Kimura, a happiness explorer empowering humans in wisdom and understanding. The universe united us to share our passions. Welcome to our show.
Hey guys, I'm Eric.
And I'm Lindsey. Welcome back.
Hey, I'm a little flustered because I've been in traffic, just LA traffic. And the crazy thing about this stuff is like I'm noticing, like, as you're driving, it's so much traffic, but there's so many gaps in between the cars because everyone's like on their cell phone or texting, and it's really kind of ridiculous. So bear with me as I'm getting my bearings and stuff like that. But how are you doing?
Good. My entire apartment complex is under construction, so I've just been practicing staying calm and balanced.
Yeah.
You know, on all four walls, there's something going on: power washing, installing washer dryers, repainting, babies. It's like a lot of noise, but that's when you actually have to practice, right? You can't be in your bubble. So, yeah.
Cool. So we are doing part 2 from this is season 1, episode 7, part 2 of the hidden secrets of love and relationships, why we have it all wrong. Quick shout out. Obviously, we have to give shout out to our sponsors, Magnum Watch. As usual, all listeners will receive 25% discount from using the coupon code Cowfish25. So real quick recapping what we went into. We left off with, let's see here. We revealed that relationships are our secret, our spiritual assignments. They're karmic assignments that mirror back exactly what we need to heal in our lives. We revealed the fear-love script that I think that everybody has that kind of undermines. We also revealed that first level awareness is tied to material and physical realm. So all of our relationships are pretty much what you call surface relationships in the beginning. There's no real depth to them. We also revealed that you can only love someone as much as they will allow you to, as well as you will only receive the level of love that you feel that you deserve. So then we'll kick it off for part 2.
And I think we left off with some of the love language, which I know,
that
Eric,
is true too,
yes, you are more of an expert on that aspect than I am. So I'd love for you to talk more about the love languages. And we also said that we will give you guys some ways to effectively communicate and how you can use your relationships as mirrors to learn more. And everything is in preparation because each relationship you have after the previous one becomes even more fulfilling or even more of a lesson or something that makes you whole again because you've learned something, and it's like you've graduated or received the allowance to go to the next level.
Yes,
so
it is.
As we learn, then we're rewarded by the next thing. So want to start with love languages? Yeah,
we left off with love language. Love languages, 5 love languages, and that's how we interpret and perceive love. Mine happens to be physical touch and quality time. So if I'm with someone that's not making me, not necessarily a priority, but not giving me quality time, and it's like physically touching, which is kind of weird for me because that's how I know if I really like someone. Because if you're touching me and I don't really feel you, I'm just kind of like, But if I'm into you, then that's what I really crave, and that's what I want. The ones I think I talked about that I'm not necessarily, that don't come easy for me is acts of service. And then my worst one is gifts. So there's 5. There's physical touch, quality time, acts of service, gifts, and words of affirmation.
Okay.
So I'm good with words of affirmation. I'm, tell a woman, how special that they are. Physical touch, quality time. My worst ones are acts of service, and I suck at gifts. I grew up in what we talked about was all of the way that we love was based upon our early childhood, the models that we saw. And so in my family, my family was very, like, my dad was very military, very strict. And my mom was like very loving, and but my dad was very conscious. Maybe that's where I get it from. And my dad turned me early on, like, there's no Santa Claus, there's no whatever. Like, we did the whole Christmas thing, but then when I got to a certain age, we got very practical. So it was like, we'll buy you anything that you want, but as long as you want it, we're not going to buy you things that you think you need. So I had a lot of stuff, but all my stuff was like quality, right? So I was not into this whole gift giving just to give a gift, especially like for Christmas or for Valentine's and all this other stuff. So when I bought you something, if you were my girl, if I bought you something, I bought you something that was special to you. But if you interpreted my love as I've dated women that are like, bring me little trinkets and stuff. And I'm like, I don't use that cologne. I don't do this.
Oh, I remember you told me a story.
I appreciated it, but it's like, it's not special to me. And then I can't reciprocate it because I'm just not going to buy you something. I'm not wired that way just to buy you something. Hey, I was, in the store and I was thinking of you and I just bought you this. It has nothing to do with you, but I bought it because I was thinking of you. Well, mine is like, I'm thinking of you, so I'm going to call you or I'm going to text you and send you, So it's love language is all about how we interpret and perceive love. So someone who is receives or perceives loves through gift giving will perceive me as like, you're not buying me anything.
You must not.
You must not love me. Yeah. And if, same with me is like physical touch. If you're not touching me and I want you to touch me, then our ego, our meaning making machine starts to overcompensate and overcorrect. And that's where the catastrophes start to happen, is because our brains are really primal and we overcorrect. The ego overcorrects and makes things mean things that they're not. So we have this illusion when we're going into human love, which is the lowest level of love, which is tied to all the physical, all the material, and we're the victim. So we have the victim mentality. So it's like, if you don't do this, it must mean X, right? And our primal brain, because of the survival techniques that we needed when we were, thousands of millions of years ago, we don't need those now. So, but it hasn't evolved, so to speak. Our thinking hasn't evolved, and so we get into this whole, I'm right, you're wrong mentality that just doesn't serve us. So
yeah. And I was thinking in terms of putting those love languages to use, it might be effective for each partner in the relationship to take the test to find out what he or she is, and then talk about it with the other partner, and then say like your way that you receive love is through gifts, but your partner doesn't naturally feel inclined to give gifts. Maybe that's a window of opportunity for your partner to open up to, how can I give gifts, but in a way that still feels authentic to me? And then the partner who receives love in the form of gifts can say, I understand my partner doesn't really show love through gifts. How can I be a little bit more compassionate and understanding and open to receiving the love, knowing that? So just having more knowledge can be such a great tool for communicating. It's kind of an icebreaker, I would say. And also just having more compassion and understanding for your partner.
Yeah, I mean, what you said is like awareness is a big thing, but I think what ends up happening, love is really all about, like I said in the first part one, is that we learn how to fear. We don't learn how to love. But through love, especially through human love, it's really the sole purpose is to learn how to love and get to love, but it's through the hardships and through the pain of the illusion of having our heart broken. And I don't really, like, if you really kind of go back and look at some of the puppy love or some of the first loves that you had and that you considered were heartbreaking, it's really about just reframing. If you go back and say, okay, I was broken, because we're all broken, we're suffering in some level. So I was broken. I entered into, and like attracts like. So the energy that you're generating, you're attracting the same energy. And what we talked about in the first part one is that we are not looking for love. We're looking for someone that makes us feel familiar with the love that we envisioned as a child. And so we go into that full of fear, full of insecurities. And that's a fork to, as we look at it and say, okay, we got our heart broken, but we didn't get our heart broken. The ego more than likely was bruised. And the ego, as we said, over corrects. It feels a sting. It doesn't like the sting. And it does everything in its power to avoid the sting, which goes back to survival, right? But it creates separation. It doesn't create the connection. It doesn't create the vulnerability. And so I talked about the first time. I'm hogging the mic here.
Oh, that's okay. I hogged it the first part, so you should.
Yeah, so our fear-love script, right? And so I have an example of how we overcompensate. So my fear-love script was, I'm going to get you before you get me, right? And that all came about when I was in the music industry around opportunistic female, so to speak, right? And I saw examples of things happening to other people through stories, but also had an experience where, I met a girl and we were kicking it and we were having fun, and my level of fun was a little different from her level of fun. And she started to get attached. And I remember I flew her down for the Super Bowl because I was friends with the Cowboys. We went to the Super Bowl, and I think I was going to London afterwards, and she had booked her flight, or she changed her flight at the end of the day, but the Super Bowl was running long. And so I was like, but anyway, long story short, I rushed her to the airport, and I think I was flying off the next day to go to London, and I was going to be there for a while. Then I had to go to New York, and I was going to be, though I think the way that I left it kind of was like, okay, we had fun, it was cool. And that didn't sit well with her. And so she pretended like she was pregnant. And that stung me. And I was like, whoa, And so my ego, or my, meaning making machine at the time was like, because it was obviously it was a lie. We had a mutual friend, and her mutual friend confessed that she's just trying to get your attention, stay attached. And I thought that was really kind of a bad. And so my meaning making machine overcompensated and said all women are evil.
So I'm going to get manipulative, or not telling the truth.
Exactly, yeah. And so, but our innate, one of our, like I said, the non-negotiable, our number one non-negotiable need is love. And so I was like, I'm not going to stop seeing women, right?
Right.
So you see women, but you have this false belief instead of what the reality was like, Eric, you just had a bad judgment in character. That's all it was. Bad judgment in character, right? Clean the slate, go into a new relationship without carrying that baggage.
Yes.
But what we do is our primal brain makes it like black or white. You know what I mean? Good or evil, right or wrong. And so, the bottom line is I made women wrong. I equated that experience. I made it equal that women are wrong.
Yes.
Right? And that's what we do. And if you look down and you break down anyone's fear-love script, it's an illusion.
Right.
It really is an illusion.
Right. And I like how you talked about, Eric, going back to the root of the issue, because I think with creating some type of a blanket belief or a firm system that you categorize or stereotype all women or all men or all people like this, and you just live in that, it can solidify and become more and more of your reality. So you're just repeating patterns. But we always have the choice and the opportunity to trace back, why is this happening? And I think that's how, like you said, we clear the slate, is by tracing the root of the why you're having that belief. And first, I think you have to recognize and become aware of the belief, and then you want to question, like we are both questioners, want to question, well, why? And then when you open up to the answer, it will be revealed, and then you can subsequently take the action to heal that and become whole again. And I think in general, if you're ever questioning a relationship, whether it's romantic or friendship or whatever you want to title that, you can ask yourselves, why is this person in my life? oftentimes the person's in your life because you have some karma to resolve. Other times you're learning certain lessons. Maybe they're not so karmically rooted, but they're lessons, they're ways to develop your character, their preparation for the next relationship. And I think, at least in my sphere, I see a lot of karmic relationships and people learning lessons, even myself, like coming together to resolve something. And then conscious partnerships, which we touched on in episode 1 or part 1 of this love episode, is those relationships where both people have done so much healing and work and have gotten to a state of course we can't be perfectly whole all the time. We're constantly dynamic and in flux, but it's like two wholes coming together. And when you come together with this person, it's just your love is amplified, your power is amplified, everything is just buzzing, and you're still learning and you're still creating, but it feels more like collaboration and supportive rather than feelings of missing or lack or tumultuous emotions and other types of feelings that aren't so present when the two individuals have done so much work and are conscious and they match up, and that's how love is generated and created. Yeah,
the karmic part that you talk about is I mean, I guess that's the aha moment, is that it's really the fork in the road, because in human love we are loving via fear. And those things cannot coexist. Love doesn't exist in fear, and fear doesn't exist in love. So the whole purpose of that is really to move us into spiritual love, where we're conscious and we're more aware of things, and the spiritual love doesn't change. So I'm going to read. Actually, let's put up the picture again, or the sculpture, for those who are listening and aren't watching. It is the Alexander Milov sculpture from the Burning Man in 2015, so you can Google that and look at that. But we have, I think even you said that we can either be the rock or the stream. And I view that as the same thing as like the aha moment is all of our setbacks are our opportunities to fall forward. So in my case, with my marriage, I fell in and out of human love, but I discovered spiritual love out of that. My lesson was, it moved me, the pain within the loss that I felt through the separation, actually moved me into finding spiritual love and inner peace. And that's really what all of our connections are all about. It's our ability, it says, to fall in love. You're giving your partner the power to change you, but not change in the ego sense. It's really the change in the growth and the soul expansion sense. So I call love really the tipping point. But you can either learn the lessons from the pain that the ego is feeling. I don't necessarily think it's us that's feeling the pain. It's just that the lower self and the sting of what the ego makes and feels, because there's so much emotion tied to our beliefs, even when they're false beliefs. There's emotions that bind that belief. And then once we're able to see through that, exactly what you said is question, why am I feeling this way? Question, what's the lesson? On any type of heartbreak, the first thing I always say, or any type of what they say setback, whether it be relationships, whether it be certain things that you think were expectations that you had, ask what's the lesson that is meant to be received from this, because they're all of our setbacks, like I said, are opportunities to move forward. And so I'm going to end off on some takeaways, but I want you to do your takeaways first. So.
Yeah, I would say, Eric, the one thing I love to remember is that everything has value. So I used to use, when I was younger, the phrase, everything happens for a reason, right? But I replaced that with everything has value, because whether it's a positive emotion, a negative emotion, arduous, challenging, or uplifting and exciting, it has value and it's adding to you in some way, or maybe subtracting things that you needed to release in order to become more whole and just more of yourself, which I'm excited in episode 8, we're going to be talking about what self really means. So yeah, I would say the biggest thing, wrapping back to part 1 of this series, is that if you know yourself very well and you allow and you take care of yourself to have that inquiry time to process what's going on and then pose questions that can be helpful and useful in relationships, you can bring that as well to your partner. And imagine if both partners are doing that, you can have an open stream of communication. And it's okay sometimes not to know the answers. Like, you might have an emotion and you don't know why you're feeling that. But rather than harbor that emotion and feel like you can't express it to your partner, you can say like, hey, I'm feeling this way and I haven't yet discovered why or processed it, but I just wanted to let you know that, this makes me feel this way. So try to explain and communicate how you're feeling in whatever stage you're at. Like, you don't have to have an answer or resolution. Like, oh, I was acting this way because of X or Y. It's more like, I'm feeling this way right now. I'm not sure why, but like, let's talk. So I think number 1 takeaway on my end is to have an open stream of communication. And in order to do that, you need to know thyself.
Yes. Good takeaways, yeah.
Thank you.
My takeaways are, it's really about fear and love. And so once you become aware that there is a choice, you have to look at the ego and just know that it does not serve. It's only there it has the inability to process information that it's receiving. So all the information, I actually, before I get to takeaway, I'll talk about brain games. I love the show called Brain Games, because when you watch it, it always tests your knowledge of what you perceive, and it's always wrong, right? Because our brain just has an inability to process everything at once. So what it does is it takes a snapshot of what it feels is the most important things, and it feeds back to your brain and tells you to react. But your brain is primal, so if you notice, your brain will always look at the worst case scenario because it's tied to the ego, and so the fork is the brain doesn't serve, the ego doesn't serve. You have to really touch into the heart, which is the soul, which is where love resides. I'd say that I have this burial ritual, like you're writing a book, I'm writing a book, and in my book, there is this love burial ritual that I give people, and I tell them, like, these are the things that you need to write down, and you need to burn them because it's sabotaging your connections. So 3 of them are the need to be right. That's rooted in fear. It doesn't serve, like you just talked about. When you have true companionship or true connections, it's the ability to express and inform the other partner without feeling judged and being judged. And so each partner can communicate effectively without feeling any type of judgment that's going to come based upon, or criticism, because typically when you are tied to the ego, if I say something to you, you are going to interpret it, and you may interpret it as criticism. That doesn't exist. Stop the need to be right. The other one is the belief that you had your heart broken. Chances are, like I said before, is that you were with someone who did not know how to love, knew how to fear, just like you didn't know how to love, and you knew how to fear, and you both were working on your, clearing your insecurities and your past traumas, and that's all it is. Those were lessons. So learn from the lessons. Don't make it mean that your heart was broken, and close your heart off, because then you're closing yourself off to love. And the last one is belief that you need to change someone. That's like a big one. So everyone's always like, they go in, it's like, oh, this person's not this way, this not that way, but they're like this. I can get them to change, right?
Right.
Never works. And the hidden secret behind that is we mirror that which we need to heal. So if you feel the need to change someone, aha, it's you that needs to change. And once you have that and release that, that's where you experience growth. And the last takeaway is that every successful couple, whether they are karmic match in human love or in spiritual love, every single successful couple has what I call a ritual. They have one commonality. They don't have to share like hobbies or anything like that, but they have one commonality that they stick to. And what ends up happening is the communication breaks down, especially in human love, where you have the need to be right, I have the need to be right. But that ritual, the commonality, kind of resets the relationship. So it could be like, we go mountain biking every Saturday, or we do whatever it is, right?
Yes, it's like the root.
Yes, the
brings
root.
You together.
And it allows it. What it does is it prevents the resentment and prevents those emotions really kind of bubbling over, where they get to contentment, where there's kind of the slippery slope where there's no returning, there's no return. So when you have that ritual, it kind of resets and it prevents those, other harsh emotions from setting in.
Yes.
So if you don't have a ritual with your, in your relationship right now, you need to create it.
Yes. And I think that stems from your values, right? If your core values and how you can shift them, but oftentimes those materialize more into the root. So, yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll be back for episode 8 next week.
Yes, we have that's our season finale, and obviously you and I always like to tackle the big topics. So
yes,
this one's a big topic. So make sure you tune in next week for our season finale, season 1, episode 8. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning into the Cowfish Show. Check back for future episodes on raising consciousness, creating happiness, fulfillment, and love.
And remember to find us and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at The Cowfish Show.